What's going on? This is Kareem from DJBooth.net, and I'm here in the lab to give you a quick review video of the new Pioneer DDJ SP1 Serato DJ auxiliary or subcontroller. So what we have here is a nice, compact, well-built controller for Serato DJ. It's designed by the Pioneer team, and it looks very similar to the Pioneer DDJ SX and the SR controllers. That's because most of these pads and buttons and knobs and functions are already built into the DDJ SX controller, and therefore it's going to have a very similar look to that, minus of course the jog wheels and the decks and the mixing controls. So what we get here is all the other deck controls along with your navigation functions and everything else that you would want to control within Serato DJ that may not be available in your DVS setup, for example, or with the controller that you may already have. So it doesn't really come bundled with Serato DJ. It's made as an auxiliary controller for Serato DJ. Therefore, you already need a controller or a DVS setup with either a sound card inside of your mixer already or a Rane SL DVS interface. Therefore, you can use this device along with that Serato DJ DVS setup or a controller that you already have, such as maybe a Denon DJ controller or another controller that doesn't have the same functionality, such as slice mode and all of these cool other features and functions that you get here with the DDJ SP1. So first up, we'll just take a look at the setup and the build quality. The build quality is very, very nice. It has a metal face to the top, and it has a really hard backing and underneath body to it. Some of it's metal, some of it's plastic, but it really, really feels solid. Nothing creaks or pops or cracks or anything like that. You have the same pads that are pulled pretty much directly from the DDJ SX. They're really nice to press. They are one color backlit. They're not multicolored backlit, but you have these nice solid metal posts underneath all of your knobs, and everything just feels really sure-footed and like it's built to last. It's a nice small size as well, so it fits really nicely along the top of the popular DJM huge house-sized mixers, and it just can fit easily into a smaller style bag when you want to take it with you on the go. Setup again is fairly simple because it doesn't come bundled with Serato DJ. You actually have to have already set up your Serato DJ, and all you need to do is pretty much plug in your USB cable on the side of the unit, and it's already ready to go. This is a MIDI class compliant device. There's also a dimmer switch on the side, so that way you can dim the lights down if you want to. And this is also a MIDI class compliant controller, so therefore you can map this to whatever software takes a MIDI mappable type of device. And there's also a Traktor TSI mapping available on the Pioneer DJ website as well. So we're going to take a quick look at all of the features and functions on the DDJ SP1 and let you guys know how it works. Okay folks, so here it is. This is the Pioneer DDJ SP1 DJ controller, specifically for Serato DJ, but again, it's a fully MIDI mappable controller. Therefore, you can use it with any software of your choice as long as you map it yourself. Again, there is a Traktor TSI file available at the Pioneer DJ website. So first up, we're going to pull up Serato DJ, and you can see it's on the screen now. And we have the middle section of the DDJ SP1, which is dedicated to most of your navigation controls. You use your oversized encoder here in order to go to your different tracks. And then you can load your tracks by pressing the load button depending on which deck you have selected. By default, this is deck 1, this is deck 2. When you press deck 3 or deck 4, then these decks become deck 3 and deck 4 when these buttons are highlighted here. You can also use these buttons as a panel select when you press the shift button. As you can see, there's an oversized shift button here in the middle. When you press that and your deck select, you get to change your different panels. And as you can see, we're going between the different panels within Serato DJ, which are the samples and the effects and your navigation controls, etc., etc. So next up, we have the back and utility button, which brings you back so you can go back to your other panel in order to access your different files and your different playlists. And you also have a load prepare so that you can prepare your different tracks and have them set up the way you need them. Okay, so first up, we're just going to load something into the deck. Okay, you can come here And we can load a track, pressing the load button, and then we're ready to play the track. This is a DVS setup, but again, you can use your controller in order to play the tracks. And in the middle, you have a sampler volume control knob. Continue up to the top, you have your FX assign. You can assign your effects from bank 1 or effects from bank 2 to either deck 1, 2, or 3 and 4. Very easy to do. Shift when you're using these buttons in order to activate 3 and 4. So that pretty much takes care of the middle portion. The left and the right portions, again, are most of the decks or the FX controls. And this will operate deck 2 or deck 4. And this one will operate deck 1 and deck 3. So first up, we have these cool pads pulled basically directly from the DDJ SX. They're very responsive. They're nice to the touch. You can really easily set and control your hot cues, your samples. You can really drum away on these, and they're really nice performance pads. They're a little stiff, but they feel really good. They're just like the DDJ SX, and we like them there, so we're gonna like them here. You have many different modes. You have hot cue, you have roll, slicer, and sampler, and you also have the hot loop, and you have roll and auto loop. Then you have manual loop and velocity when you press shift and you enter into one of these modes. And the hot cue is just as you see it. It's a hot cue. You can start your hot cues as soon as you press the button. You're in hot cue mode. And when you want to delete your hot cues, you press shift and you press the cue that you set. You also have a hot loop, which will play the hot cue from where you set the hot cue, but instead of playing one time, it'll play in a loop depending on how you have your loop parameter already set in the software. Next up, you have your roll, which will automatically roll the actual loop that's already set in the software, or you can use these different pads which correspond to the different sizes of the roll and allow you to continuously roll and continuously loop that track. But there's a slip mode function to it as well, so that way when you let go of the pad, the playhead is exactly where it should have been had you never started the loop in the first place. You also have auto loop mode, which is just like a roll, but minus the slip function. Next up, you have your slicer, which will slice the beat into 8 equal parts, and then you're allowed to drum and shift the place or the placement of the song depending on which of the pads you press. Next up, there's a manual loop mode where you have in and out manual points and a reloop and exit button, so you can exit the loop. You can also save your loop and make your loop active or inactive. Next up, you have your sampler mode. When in sampler mode, you can change your different pages by going up and down to sort through your samples, and you have 6 samples available at any one given time, and you're allowed to access all 24 samples that are available to you in Serato DJ. Also, when you press shift in the sampler button, then you have a velocity sensitive type sampler where it corresponds to the pressure that you hit the button with. The harder you press the button, the louder your sample will play, and the softer you press the button, the softer or the lower the volume will be on the sample. So we'll give you a quick demo of these features. That's the hot cue. And the hot cue loop. Next up, you have your roll function. And then you have your auto loop. Next up, you have your slicer. Next up, you have your manual loop. Next up is your sampler. and your velocity sampler. All right, so after we have your pad section covered, next up you have an auto loop button here that you can press to automatically start your loops, and you can grow the loop or shorten the loop when you turn the encoder. You also have parameter buttons. These parameters will grow or shorten your loop length, and they'll also change the parameters of some of your different functions here. Like with the slicer, for instance, it will make the 8 equal parts bigger or smaller depending on how you have the parameters set. Next up, you have slip and sensor. Slip allows you to go into slip mode, meaning you can do manipulations such as rolls and hot cues and different loops. And then as soon as you let go of the slip mode, you will have the playhead exactly where it would have been had you never manipulated the song in the first place. Next up is the sensor, and the sensor will allow the track to monetarily play in reverse, so you can censor out things like curse words and unwanted parts of songs. Next up, you have your effects controls up at the top, and they're right on screen, and these correspond, the knobs are corresponding perfectly with the actual software. So you have all control over all of your effects. Then you also have your beat encoder as well. Everything's really well built, really well made. And then you have your buttons to turn them all on or all off. Once again, Serato has the iZotope effects. You have a lot of different effects to choose from. When you press shift and the effects, you get to go through the different effects that you have available, and you can change them on the fly. So in conclusion, the Pioneer DDJ SP1 is probably the best auxiliary or additional controller that you can get for a Serato DJ package. It gives any DVS user or any user with a maybe limited controller all of the abilities and functions that you would find on a really super or powerhouse type controller such as the DDJ SX. You get these really cool velocity sensitive pads that are responsible for all of your main functions like hot cues, rolls, slicer, sampler, and loops. You also get the full effects package that you need to control all of the iZotope effects right there in Serato DJ 1.5 or better. And you also have all of your navigation controls as well. It's really solidly built, it's really compact, and it works exactly as it should. And it also is MIDI mappable to work with any other software of your choice. On the downside, the only real minor gripe that I can find is that these pads are all just one single color backlit, so they're not like multicolored, so you can't go and assign different colors to different hot cues, or you can't look at a glance and tell which mode you're in unless you're looking at the actual mode buttons. Also, it doesn't come bundled with Serato DJ, so you already have to have Serato DJ working on a controller or a DVS style solution. Other than that, again, it's probably the best DJ controller that you can get as an auxiliary controller for Serato DJ, and you are able to unlock a lot of the power that the Serato DJ has to offer with the addition of the DDJ SP1. So for more on the full written review, you can head on over to www.djbooth.net/DJS, or you can just click the top link of this video description. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.